And then, Mr. N, just
Okay.
really quickly, I just wanted to let you know I'm also at the administration office at Mountain View, just helping out on the front. So I might just be like in and out.
Okay, that sounds good. Perfect. All right, everyone, welcome to Workshop Wednesday. It is January 13th, and we are picking back up where we left off last semester. We're meeting every Wednesday except on weeks with a modified schedule. And in January, there's a few weeks with modified schedules. So next week, we will not be having a workshop. And then the following week, it will be on a Tuesday instead of a Wednesday, but we'll go over that in a little bit. And we would just like to wish everyone a very happy new year and welcome back. So for today, the theme is sort of a potpourri section. So we're going to go over transcripts, but we're also going to review some of the things that we covered last semester and talk about what you can be doing now, focusing on the things that we've discussed previously. These sessions are being co-hosted by Ms. Yazdani at Mountain View High School, and I'm Mr. Ann at Los Altos High School. Okay, so like I just mentioned, that's what's up for today. The high school transcript, review, and then Q&A at the end. So let's dive in. With your transcript, students can access this through Aries. And if you don't know Aries, it is your student information system. So I'm going to just put this in the chat for everyone to have it. And you can log on using you're going to be able to download a copy of your transcript. And it is important for students to know how to find their transcript in Aries, but also to look at it after each grading period to confirm that everything is accurate. It should always be accurate, but there are humans involved and there are systems involved. And so both in high school and then later on, if you continue on to college, you just want to make sure that you're looking at what grades are going on your transcript and that you're earning credits and that everything's accurate. So that way you can rectify any mistakes quickly and before it's like really necessary to do that. Okay, so now I'm going to show you, this is just a demo transcript, but when you do download yours, you're going to be just checking that your student name is accurate. Sometimes students have a nickname or they have a middle name that's actually not that you want on there or you don't want on there, or there's two last names and maybe they're flipped around. It can vary, but you just want to make sure that your student name on your transcript matches what is on your birth certificate, is going to match what you're going to use on college applications, is going to match what you submit for your financial aid when you become a senior. So your name should be accurately listed on your transcript. You can confirm that the correct student ID number is there, the grade is accurate, check your birth date, make sure that's correct. You'll be able to find who your counselor is underneath that section there. And then you also want to check the parent and guardian name, address, and telephone. If you move or if a phone number changes, you can contact the school's registrar and they'll be able to update that information. They will need some sort of documentation, but you want to make sure that that's kept up to date. And then in this little box over here, that's where transcript comments will appear. So if you transferred schools or if you took a specific course that needs a little bit more description, that will show there. And so some students may never have a comment there and others will. It just depends on your circumstances. So once you've looked through that and you've made sure everything is correct, you can scan down just a little bit farther and you'll start seeing a history of all of the courses that you've taken by grade level. And so in this situation, this demo student is a current 10th grader. So if you look back, you can see 9th grade, that was last year in the fall of the year 1920. It will have the name of the school. So again, if you attended a different school in 9th grade, that school's name would show up. If you attended Mountain View or Los Altos, that school name will show up. And then at the very far left column, it has a series of symbols. And there's a key to those symbols at the bottom of your transcript, course tags. If the course is considered honors, there's a plus and a P. If it's college prep, it just has a P next to it. And then if it is not college prep, it has an asterisk. And so, for example, your PE course, is not a college prep course, and that will have an asterisk next to it. I'm going to kind of jump ahead here and just say that when you're applying to colleges like the UC or the CSU, you won't include your PE course. And so that'll come up later, and we'll go over that again. And we'll also look at your GPA. But that's the way for you to know what these various courses that you're taking, what they count for. And then you should look over it and say, okay, are all of the classes that I took or any sports that I participated in, are those listed? You can check the grade. Now, these are the official grades. So if you had a conversation with one of your teachers and you submitted something a little bit late and they said that it was going to change your grade, but it's not reflected on your transcript, now is the time to send an email, follow up with that teacher, clarify if there's any mistake, and then they can submit a grade change form to the registrar in the case of an error. You don't want to wait until your senior year when you're applying to colleges to look back and say, oh, I actually should have earned a this grade in that class back in 9th grade or 10th grade or even 11th grade. So that's why you want to do this after each grading period, is just checking for accuracy. Then in the far right-hand box, you can see how many credits were attempted for the class and then how many credits you earned. So assuming that you get a D- or higher in any course, you're going to earn credit. The only time you don't earn credit is if you get no credit or you earn an F in a course, in which case you'll see 5 credits were attempted, but 0 credits were earned. Then after each term, there's a running calculation of your GPA for that particular term, and you can see that right here. So which credits were attempted, and then what's that term's GPA. And then it just continues on from there. So I'm just going to point out that in this demo student, the student did attend summer sessions, and you can see that it's clearly indicated that it's summer session 1, summer session 2, if you took those on campus or if you took those at a different institution like Foothill or De Anza or an outside program like BYU Independent Study, that would be reflected here based on the course that you took and where you took it. Okay, so please in the chat, if you have any questions of what I'm discussing, please drop those in and then Ms. Yazdani can answer those. Or we can wait until the end, up to you. And then just on the far right-hand side of your transcript, you'll see work in progress. Now, work in progress, those are the courses that you're taking this semester. So again, if you, let's say you added a health class or you changed your math level or you started a new elective, whatever it might be, you just want to make sure that it's accurate for the courses that you're taking this semester. And if you notice an error, you can reach out to your school counselor. When you become a senior and you apply to colleges, colleges will see the work in progress also. So when you apply, you might not have completed your first semester, you might not have completed your first semester, your grades might not be ready, but they'll see the courses that you're taking. And so that's where that comes into play. Okay, next slide. At the very bottom of your transcript, you'll notice there's a section with your GPAs listed. Now, if you're a 9th grader viewing today, you will not have a 10 through 12 GPA, and that's because that GPA starts after the first semester of your 10th grade. So this first GPA, the academic GPA, includes all coursework that is college prep or honors. It does not include non-college prep coursework such as PE. And then the next GPA is 10 through 12. That's the GPA that the CSUs and the UCs use during their recalculations. And then there's the total GPA, which is everything on your transcript, college prep or not, weighted or unweighted, everything's included. And then you have your 2 columns. Weighted and non-weighted will look different if you take an honors course, which gives you an extra grade point. If you finish high school having never taken an honors class, then the GPAs will always be the same in both of those columns. So there will only be a difference if you take an honors class. And then it gives you a running tally of how many credits you've attempted and how many credits you've completed. On the bottom, it shows your start date in Mountain View or Los Altos. and then the date that you started at the particular school. So if we have a Freestyle Academy student or a College Now student or a middle college student joining, you'll see the date that you entered the MVLA district and then the date that you entered your school. It shows your graduating class. And then at the bottom, it has your state ID number. Now this 10-digit ID number, that will be asked on your CSU and your UC application. And you don't need to really worry about that until fall of senior year, but just know that's where your state student ID number is. And then over here on the far right-hand side, there's a credit summary box. And this is your graduation tracking chart here. So you can see everything that's required in order to graduate. You can see what credits you've completed, and you can see what's still outstanding or what you will need to complete before you graduate from our district. And so as you're kind of looking through it, now's a great time to give yourself a pat on the back and say, wow, look at, I'm really moving forward towards my goal, and I'm gonna finish that requirement next year, or I'm gonna finish it this year, and you can just acknowledge where you're at.
Mr. Ann?
Yeah.
Someone wrote in the chat, they said, I went to transcripts on my Aries, but it doesn't look like the one on the screen.
Okay, great question. Is there a way for you to download it? Because I believe when you're looking at it from the website, it doesn't generate a report like this. It just shows you each thing on a running list. Is there an option to download for students?
I'll write that in the chat.
Okay.
Maybe the student can go in to check. But yeah, I don't know for the students' Aries if they have the same access as we do in terms of viewing the transcript this way, but they could.
Okay.
I just don't know if it's different.
That's great. That's great to know. And I also do know that on the bottom, so this transcript is unofficial unless signed by a school official. There should be a way for students to get the transcript as an unofficial, but I would love to confirm that. So thank you to whoever wrote that in, and let's loop back around and see if you can get it this way. Okay, so if it ends up that you cannot get this, you can email Ms. Yazdani or me, and we'd be happy to create a report of your transcript and send it to you. No problem at all. So you can just send us an email and say, hey, could you send me an unofficial copy of my transcript? And we'd be happy to provide this to you. All right, so we'll move on from there into a review of earlier topics. Last semester, we hosted, I think it ended up being 13 different workshops. And we have those slides shared on our sites, and we have a YouTube channel. But just to remind you, Naviance is still something that you can be and should be using as a tool. And so we talked about updating activities in Naviance under About Me, under your resume section. So there you can include any clubs that you've participated in, any volunteering activities that you might be doing, any paid work that you have done or are doing. You can add that in Naviance under About Me. It's also a place for you to complete the assessments like the Do What You Are or the personal interest inventory. And those will help you determine what careers you might be interested in, and then what major you might want to study in college, and then what colleges offer those majors. So Naviance is a research tool and allows you to do some investigation on what direction you might want to go in. Once you find a school that you might be interested in, you can also save that college onto Colleges I'm Thinking About by tapping the heart button. And then that starts generating a list of possible colleges that you can then decide at a later point if you actually want to apply to those or not. Another topic that we discussed last semester was the Common App, and that was a lot of focus for seniors. But just so you know, if you're a younger student, you can create a Common App account now. You can start entering your personal information. You can enter the courses that you've taken. And each year there's a button that will say, would you like to roll over to the next year? And you would say yes. So all of your information is saved. You don't have to redo it. And so again, that's just something that you can do now and save yourself some time later. And then we also went over college exams and testing. So we have a modified schedule, not next week, but the following week, because as of today, the Los Altos Mountain View schools will be hosting the PSAT on campus for 11th graders. That could still be canceled, but it could also happen. And that's kind of the approach for right now. We don't know if testing like SAT or ACT will be available in our area, but we know that students in the 11th grade typically start preparing for those exams if they are planning on taking them. And so we have different free test prep options, information about those exams, and suggested timelines. Again, that's definitely something you want to discuss with your family. This year, almost all schools went test optional for the current seniors, and many schools are going to continue being test optional for the class of 2022. We know for sure the UCs, the University of California, will not look at test scores, and we don't know 100%, but we believe the California State Universities will make that a same announcement sometime this month. So we'll definitely let you know when we know. But there are hundreds of colleges that have already committed to going test blind or test optional for the class of 2022. Another thing we covered was the UC personal insight questions, both what they are and how you can start thinking about those. The UC personal insight questions have stayed the same for the last several years. And so if you're a junior, a freshman, a 10th grader, you can look at what the UC personal insight questions are just to familiarize yourself with what it looks like. You don't need to start answering those, but you can start thinking, what would I eventually be asked to write about? And then looking for maybe inspiration in your everyday. We also discussed the FAFSA and financial aid options. So if you're a senior out there and you haven't submitted your financial aid application, there are still several free bilingual workshops being hosted by the California Student Aid Commission. We have links to those. We also have guides posted on our websites, and Ms. Yazdani and I would be happy to get on a call with you or your family to walk you through how to submit your financial aid applications. We also had a visit from Foothill College, which gave us a great idea of timeline for seniors, also for younger students who might want to take a course at Foothill, what programs are offered, the Promise Scholarship, which is your first 2 years free at a California community college. And this semester, we already have De Anza and Mission College signed up to visit with students within the next few weeks. And so in February, you'll have an opportunity to hear, January and February, you'll be able to hear from 2 more of our local community colleges about their programs. And then last workshop, we had Miss Gorman as a guest speaker talk to students about creating a college list. And unfortunately, her internet kind of went out at the end. And so what we're going to do in a minute is we're going to go over the last little bit that was a little fuzzy to hear about how you can cultivate your college list. And then our very last meeting of last semester was what to do after you apply. So for seniors, just remember mid-year transcripts will be sent out by your counselor at the end of January. Those will be automatically sent, and you should be looking at each school's portal that you applied to make sure that there's no notifications or they don't need any additional information from you. And then students, please update your Naviance with results as you hear back from different colleges, whether they were early action, early decision, rolling, or eventually with regular decision. If you end up not applying to a school that's on your list, you could let Ms. Yazdani or I know, and we can remove that college from your list just to keep it accurate and keep the data true to what you did or did not apply to. Okay, last couple things on the slide. We really encourage you to write down your action items, write down your goals. It's so easy to forget what you're committed to doing if you expect to just keep it in your head. And so if you haven't already, please get a calendar, whether it be electronic or on paper, or get a notebook and start writing down the things that you know you want to do or that you need to do, and then start putting a date and some time next to it. If you do this incrementally, you will accomplish your goals and you'll be able to have a very smooth experience through this process versus just knowing that you have a lot to do, but not taking action. And then it kind of all builds up and can be very stressful at the end. It's a new semester. You're starting fresh in your classes. It's a new opportunity. You may be could say that you were disorganized or there's room for improvement, now is the time. You change by just doing something different. So we encourage you to take that on. Okay, so the next slide is, we introduced this back in November, but there's a college counseling handbook. And this college counseling handbook is, I think it's, 67 pages of just some of the best information out there. This is the stuff that people are paying, private counselors a lot of money to get. And so I just dropped the link in the chat. I encourage students to look through this handbook, familiarize yourself with some of the vocabulary, what types of colleges are out there. It goes over a lot of what I just discussed, like the UC personal insight questions are on there. It gives you a worksheet on how to do that. There's a really useful timeline where you can look at what grade level you're in and then what activities you should be doing by month. So please take a look at the college counseling handbook and then have your calendar next to you and then start plugging in like, okay, I do need to update my activities list. I'm going to do that this weekend, or I'm going to do that next week, and I'm going to spend an hour on it. Okay, I do want to start researching colleges. I'm going to spend 45 minutes, every other week on that for the next couple of months. Whatever you decide to do, don't just read this and then also make a plan for when you're going to set some time to do this. Okay, so now I'm going to move on to creating the college list. And these are the last slides that Ms. Gorman presented 2 workshops ago. And so when you're looking at creating the college list, after you've done all of that great work about what matters to you, location, conversation about what they offer, when you get down to actually creating a list, you might consider applying between 8 and 12 schools. And the recommendation here is that you have 2 to 3 reach schools, you have 4 to 6 target schools, and that you have 2 to 3 likely schools. And now we're going to talk about what each of those are. So a likely school is a school that you are likely to get accepted to. And that means that your academic profile exceeds the average GPA range for students accepted in the last year's entering class. So for example, the University of Oregon, the middle 50% GPA was a 3.1 to a 3.9. Now, if you have a GPA that is there or higher, that means that you are likely to get into that school. And you want to make sure that you're including schools that your family can afford to pay for. And so that is how you would pick a likely. Okay, so the likely is if it's above that. So if you have a 3.91 or above, then it's likely that you're going to get in. Target is when your GPA falls within the average GPA range for the last entering class. So if you are between a 3.73 or a 3.97, that's going to be, you're right in that target range. And then that's when you want to pick 4 to 6 schools there. And then for your reach schools, if there's 2 things to think about. One is if you're applying to a highly selective university that only admits 5% of their students. And so I probably don't need to go through the names of those schools, but for any student, those schools are a reach school. So if there's a highly selective university that only accepts less than 10% of the students that apply, that automatically becomes a reach for any student, even if you have, the highest GPA possible, the highest test scores possible if you take those tests. It's still a reach because the admit rate is so low. And you want to pick 2 or 3 of those. If you want to pick 2 or 3 of those. Okay, and then for your college list, you can, again, add those schools to your Naviance. For now, you can add as many schools as you want, but then eventually, by maybe the end of the summer before you start your senior year, you want to really confirm the schools that you've done research on, that you're excited about, you think would be a good fit, and that you'd be really happy to attend. And then you move those on to those colleges that I'm going to apply to list. And then just making sure that you have some really great options in each of those 3 categories. So that way, when you start hearing back, you can have some good options and also not feel so overwhelmed by how many different applications you're working on. Okay, so I know that I'm doing a lot of talking, more than normal. So really quickly, if you would like, I want to ask everybody to just pause what you're doing. And if you feel comfortable, you can close your eyes. If you don't, you can just have a light gaze. And let's just do 3 quick breaths. I'll walk you through it. So you're gonna just take an inhale, deep breath in, hold your breath at the top, count to 2, and then exhale through your mouth. We're gonna do this 2 more times. So just take a deep breath in through your nose, hold at the top, 2 seconds, and then exhale. And then let's do that 1 more time. Hold at the top, and then exhale. So that breathing, it was 3 breaths. Hopefully it just brings you back down into yourself and recognizing that that's available to you anytime you need it. You can always stop and take 3 breaths like that. And I just want everyone to take a moment and think about last semester and think about something that you're really proud of. What's something that happened last semester that you're proud of? And it could be something small, it could be something significant, anything that you're proud of. And then I want you to think of something that worked well for you. So that could be going to office hours, it could be your organization system, it could be your sleep schedule, but just think about something that worked well for you last semester and acknowledge that. And then take a moment and let's think about something that wasn't working for you or that could be improved upon. So when you think back to last semester, what is something that just was not working or something that you know that you can improve upon now moving forward? And then once you have that thing, you can also try to identify what could you put in place to make that change. So if it was, your sleep schedule was not working, can you use an app or could you try some different techniques in order to reach your goal? So it's not just telling yourself you should do better or you could do better. It's actually thinking, what could I do differently, or what systems could I put in place, or how could I ask for support in order to make that change? And then the last thing that I'd like you to just consider is choosing a word for this semester. And the word can almost just be a reminder of what that goal is or what you want to try to achieve this semester. So maybe it's mindfulness, or maybe it's consistency, or maybe it's, joy, whatever it might be. And putting that somewhere, either on your notebook or stick it on a Post-it note on your bathroom mirror. And just remember that word, whatever you decide it's going to be for this semester, and hold on to that, because as we all know, things are ever changing, but it's January now, graduation or the end of the semester is in June. And so what we can set as an intention now, we want to be able to carry through for the next few months. All right, so that's the new year reflection and goal setting. Just a reminder that we have a lot of resources on both of our websites, including a great scholarship list on the Mountain View website. You can also find scholarship information on Naviance. And coming up, I sort of talked a bit about this a bit. Next week, we don't have a workshop. Then we'll have Deanza coming on Tuesday, January 26th. February 3rd, we're gonna have a guest speaker come in and talk about how creativity can play into your future, business trends, and possible careers. And then on February 10th, we're gonna have another guest speaker who's gonna come and speak to us about resumes and informational interviews and how important both of those things are in your process. February 17th is mid-February break, so no workshop. And then when we return on February 24th, we'll have Mission College come and present to our students about their programs. So thank you, everyone. Now is time for Q&A, and I'm going to stop recording.